Yeah, it is a brilliant idea having so many institutions coming on board to help develop a better nation. Actually, it isn't a matter of the number. I believe ability of the various players to create distinction in the industry also matter. After all, they are not just competing among themselves. There are people who are independent of their activities and who make decisions as to where to go, how to go, when to go, depending on what they see to be the best amongst all the offering. So competition does not necessarily mean ability of a company to create innovations here and there simply because it has the resources. But whether or not those innovations actually meet the taste and standards of your target market is entirely the choice of the customer. Many companies in the past have produced a number of products only to please the market, and having spent so much on research, having spent so much on design and packaging and all other things that makes the product appeal, it end up not satisfying anybody simply because they did not take the people at the other end of the market into consideration. 2015 brings a lot of challenges to emerging economies like Ghana and for that matter Africa as a continent. Though the continent seems promising, we have given up on a number of things that could help the African continent develop. I mean, why wouldn't we strengthen bilateral trade among countries within the sub-region and even beyond the sub-region? After all, if I am close to Togo, like the recent railway line that was commissioned to link trade activities between Ghana and Togo was a fantastic idea, because why do we have to struggle carrying goods on our heads? Why do we have to struggle going by truck, which eventually breaks down because of poor routes, and not actually create a more convenient means of transportation, which is the rail? After all, nobody tampers with the rail system. Nobody would want to walk on the rail line, because if the train is coming and you are not off it, it will just crash you. So these are things that are long overdue, and it is a step in the right direction. But more importantly, when we come home to Ghana and the energy crisis which has engulfed activities and homes, it is very important that the government actually put forward a more forward-looking legislation if the illegal connections seeks to tamper with the efficiency of power supply. I mean, why don't we come after those people? In the past, it has come to the public attention that most industries who actually consume high electricity connect them illegally. So let's assume you have about 50% of such companies connecting electricity illegally. I mean, it will put a huge burden on the government and more importantly on the nation. So why don't we strengthen our monitoring system and at least empower the suppliers, for that matter, ECG, Gridco, VRA, whoever, to actually, the three parties could form a task force and monitor. You see, when you leave a system to stay for long, monitoring becomes a problem. And it hasn't only been electricity, water is also another problem. Road is also another problem, because you have contractors constructing road, and in less than a year or two, the whole road develops pothole, yet they have been paid their huge sums of money and they are gone. I mean, why don't you give a certain timeline that after a road is constructed, 10 years after those roads are constructed, if they do not see any damages, yes, you stand a chance of going scot-free, but within the 10 years, if the road develops in a pothole, you still have to come back and put it into its right shape. So we have allowed certain things to go day by day, month by month, year by year, and that thing has culminated into a bigger problem that is actually affecting the district. So monies that should not be spent or should not be wasted on things that ought to have been done right in the past is still now with us today. So instead of spending educational problem once, we will spend monies on education bit by bit by bit by bit for over a period of less than 4 years. I mean, it is just waste of resources. We give contract to people by virtue of political affiliation and not by experience or ability to perform. So minor roads in certain areas in our community are given to party faithfuls. And sometimes when you are driving and you look at the job that these people are doing, you just have to see the country as joking, because I am not a building engineer or road expert or whatever expert. And therefore, for me to even chase my government for a contract of that sort and do a shoddy work, and if it rains, a road that I've been paid money to tar is just bad on the part of the citizenry. But people who ought to also give contract have to be careful. So if everybody should rush onto the government, for example, if let's say the president is my brother, and I have the opportunity to even buy shit for the country simply because of my affiliation with my brother. I mean, I am not an expert when it comes to procurement of ship or aircraft. So let us be very careful with the kind of decisions we take, because there are people who are also coming, and it is like nobody frowns on criticism once they are genuine and devoid of insult, but people will just malign people into certain things they barely know of. And I mean, what do we seek to gain? Is it because as far as my party is in government, I have to, speak ill of my opponent no matter how much it will cost me, knowing very well that all that I'm talking about my brother is false? Let us come down and identify the major pressing issues. Water is a problem, electricity is a problem, road is a problem. So you go to certain villages where farming is the major occupation of the people, but because of the poor nature of the road, their produce cannot get to the central market. But the central market doesn't mean Accra or Kumasi or Takrady, but even from the hinterlands into the capital district, the district capital, is a problem. So these farmers will either have to leave most of their produce rotten, or will either have to consume, which they may not be able to consume for certain reasons, because the family is just a small family. And people will also rather have to move from the urban to the rural, because they don't have the means of transporting the goods. So why don't we spend time solving minor problems that can help lift the country up, than spending money on things that actually satisfies even the rich already at the expense of the poor? In terms of politics, I don't want to go there, because the politicians know best, and some of us are very careful the kind of things we say, especially when what you are saying is actually on the public domain. But we know best. I mean, we spend money traveling to UK, US to study their parliamentary proceedings, to study their whatever we can talk of. But we come back and do not implement the same thing. We do different things. So why do we waste money deceiving the public that we are going to UK, we are going to US, we are going to Japan, we are going to China, we are going to India to learn the internal trade system, yet we come and we put a different thing onto the people? It's bad. if you are appointing an authority, I think it should be by competence, not just by political affiliation and the other that's not doing it. Let's end it here. 2015 is just at the corner. We pray the Almighty God, who has always been for us and with us, will continue to give us the light of the day to actually travel through and go to 2015, which is unpredictable.